In the high-stakes world of space exploration, few questions capture the imagination like this one. Can SpaceX's Falcon Heavy rocket send humans to the moon? As NASA grapples with the ballooning costs of its space launch system, the Falcon Heavy emerges as a compelling underdog, a battle-tested behemoth that could redefine lunar ambitions without breaking the bank. With its trio of Falcon 9 cores strapped together, this rocket has already hauled satellites to geostationary orbits and even launched a car into deep space for Elon Musk's viral stunt. But beyond the spectacle, its raw power positions it as a serious contender for NASA's Artemis program, potentially slashing timelines and budgets while delivering astronauts to the lunar gateway. At its core, Falcon Heavy's appeal lies in sheer lifting muscle. In expendable mode, meaning no boosters are recovered, it can hurl up to 63,800 kilograms, about 140,000 pounds, into low Earth orbit. That's more than enough to loft NASA's Orion spacecraft, complete with its European service module and the interim cryogenic propulsion stage, which together tip the scales at around 56,000 kilograms. Picture this: Orion, NASA's sleek crew capsule designed for deep space jaunts, nestled atop Falcon Heavy's towering frame. No need for the SLS's monstrous 98-meter height or its $4 billion per launch price tag. Instead, SpaceX's workhorse could park Orion in Earth orbit for pre-flight checks, letting the ICPS handle the translunar injection burn that slingshots it moonward. What makes this prospect even more tantalizing is Falcon Heavy's flexibility. SpaceX hasn't bothered human rating it yet. Their Falcon 9 already ferries crews to the International Space Station via Crew Dragon, proving the tech's chops for Polaris missions like the upcoming Polaris Dawn. With targeted tweaks, like beefed-up escape systems and redundant avionics, Falcon Heavy could join the club. And here's where the innovation shines. Back-of-the-envelope math suggests it might not even need the full ICPS setup. Falcon Heavy routinely delivers 26,300 kilograms to geosynchronous transfer orbit, an energy-hungry elliptical path that demands a 2.5 kilometers per second velocity kick close enough to TL's 3.2 kilometers per second that Orion's service module could bridge the gap with its 1.8 kilometers per second delta V reserve. This hybrid approach isn't pie-in-the-sky dreaming. It's grounded in orbital mechanics. From GTO, Orion could tweak its trajectory for a free return path, a gravitational slingshot around the moon's far side, looping back to Earth sans lunar orbit insertion. Apollo missions used this as a safety net, ensuring abort scenarios didn't doom the crew. Fuel savings, massive. Integration simplicity, enormous. Suddenly, the ICPS becomes a reusable asset for later flights, and Falcon Heavy handles the heavy lifting at a fraction of SLS's cost estimates peg. SpaceX launches at under $100 million versus SLS's billions. Falcon Heavy's track record seals the deal. Since its 2018 debut, it's nailed 10 missions with 0 failures, from classified DOD payloads to NASA's own Psyche asteroid probe. Reliability like that isn't just reassuring. It's revolutionary in an industry plagued by delays. NASA's Artemis III, aiming for a 2026 lunar landing, could pivot to this commercial powerhouse, freeing up funds for landers or habitats. Critics might scoff at the expendable label, but for lunar ops, reusability takes a backseat to performance. In an era where private players like SpaceX are outpacing governments, Falcon Heavy isn't just viable, it's a beacon of what's possible when ingenuity trumps inertia. While Falcon Heavy's specs paint a rosy picture, the devil lurks in the details and the politics. Proponents tout it as a plug-and-play alternative to SLS, but skeptics argue that human rating a rocket for lunar ops isn't as simple as swapping fairings. SpaceX's beast isn't certified for crewed flights yet, and bridging that gap demands rigorous testing, from abort system overhauls to vibration analyses that mimic the bone-rattling ascent. Orion's launch abort motors, tuned for SLS's beefy core, would need a redesign to jettison cleanly from Falcon Heavy's slimmer profile. That's not trivial engineering. It's a multi-year slog through NASA's labyrinthine safety protocols, potentially delaying Artemis timelines already teetering on the edge. Then there's the infrastructure headache. Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy Space Center, SLS's home turf, runs on liquid hydrogen for the upper stage Falcon Heavy guzzles RP-1 kerosene. Retrofitting for dual fuels means new tanks, pumps, and safety interlocks, ballooning costs into the hundreds of millions. The rocket's height would spike to 95 meters with Orion's custom fairing, demanding aerodynamic tweaks to fend off flutter at Mach speeds. And don't get started on propellant loading. Orion's hypergolics, toxic, volatile fuels require vertical fueling while the stack stands tall, a finicky dance that could snag on Falcon Heavy's grid fins or side boosters. These aren't showstoppers, but they're sticky wickets that fuel the controversy. Is NASA dragging its feet, or are these hurdles legitimately insurmountable for a commercial upstart? The real firestorm brews in the shadows of Capitol Hill. SLS, born from the shuttle program's ashes, isn't just a rocket. It's a jobs machine, funneling billions to Boeing, Lockheed Martin, and a web of contractors across 29 states. Each launch sustains thousands of high-tech gigs, a political shield against cuts. Falcon Heavy? It's SpaceX's baby, concentrated in Florida and Texas, with a leaner footprint that irks the old guard. Whispers in the space community suggest NASA inflated integration woes to safeguard SLS, a claim that smacks of conspiracy, but echoes in GL reports slamming the program's $23 billion tab. If Falcon Heavy aced a lunar loft at 1/10 the price, it could torpedo SLS's raison d'etre, sparking a reckoning over pork barrel space spending. Critics like Lori Garver, ex-NASA deputy, have called it out. Why cling to legacy hardware when commercial options deliver? This tension spills into the Crew Dragon debate, another flashpoint. SpaceX's capsule is a ISS superstar, but moonshot? Not so fast. Deep space nukes GPS navigation, so you'd need star trackers and laser comms retrofits that could take years. Radiation storms demand shielded avionics and a beefier shelter, while life support tweaks for 10-day hauls mean packing extra scrubbers and H2O recyclers into a cabin cozier than a minivan. Re-entry from lunar velocities, 11 kilometers per second, would torch the PICAX shield unless beefed up, risking a fiery failure on the splashdown pad. Feasible? Sure, with cash and calendar. But in the shadow of China's Tiangong station and lunar rover romps, NASA's clock is ticking, opting for unproven mods over Orion's battle-tested, if pricey design feels like gambling with geopolitics. These controversies aren't black and white. They're the gritty underbelly of innovation versus incumbency. Falcon Heavy could disrupt the status quo, but at what cost to safety and schedules? As Artemis hurtles toward liftoff, the debate rages: bold pivot or prudent path? As the dust settles on the Falcon Heavy versus SLS showdown, the Artemis program's gaze fixes firmly on the horizon, specifically a lunar flyby that could etch humanity's next chapter in the stars. Artemis II, slated for no earlier than February 2026, stands as the litmus test. A 10-day crewed loop around the moon with 4 astronauts aboard Orion, sans landing, but packed with deep space milestones. This won't be a joyride. It'll be a crucible for systems that could one day shuttle humans to Mars. Launching from Kennedy's Pad 39B on SLS's thunderous debut with crew, the mission kicks off with the core stage's separation 8 minutes in. Orion's solar wings unfurling like golden sails to juice up the batteries for the shadow-plunged coast. 90 minutes post-liftoff, the ICPS ignites, hoisting Orion into a lofty Earth-parking orbit. The next 25 hours? Pure procedural poetry. Crew and mission control run diagnostics on life support, comms, and propulsion, ensuring no gremlins lurk before the big burn. If green lights flash, Orion decouples, and the astronauts likely Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Koch, and Jeremy Hansen practice proximity ops, gingerly thruster dancing toward the spent ICPS to mimic future lander handoffs. 23 hours later, the service module's main engine roars for TLI, hurling the capsule on a 370,000-kilometer sprint to the moon. En route, they'll log over 230,000 miles, pushing 5,000 nautical miles past the lunar far side farther than Apollo's boldest jaunts. This isn't just telemetry. It's human ingenuity incarnate. Astronauts will hunker in Orion's storm shelter during solar flares, testing radiation mitigation that could safeguard Mars pioneers. Ground teams will harvest blood for organoid experiments, mini-organs grown from stem cells to probe deep space tolls on DNA and tissues from bone loss to immune glitches. Emergency drills, Earth return sims, and come blackouts will sharpen protocols, all while the crew savors views unseen since 1972. Earth as a blue marble, Moon dominating the windshield like a cosmic postcard. The free return trajectory seals the drama, a gravity-assisted boomerang using Earth-Moon tug-of-war to arc back without extra fuel, a 4-day glide to splashdown. If all clicks, Artemis II paves the runway for Artemis III's 2027 landing, where boots hit regolith near the South Pole. But here's the kicker. This path underscores the Falcon Heavy debate's stakes. SLS and Orion, for all their heft, embody NASA's methodical march reliable, but resource-hungry. A SpaceX pivot could accelerate the cadence, layering in Starship for surface hops and slashing permission costs to fund habitats or ISRU tech that mines lunar ice for propellant. Broader ripples? Artemis isn't NASA's solo act. It's a global jam session with ESA service module, JACE lander contributions, and Canada's robotic arms. Success could galvanize international buy-in, countering China's ILRS ambitions and fostering a multi-nation lunar economy, think helium-3 mining or orbital shipyards. Yet delays dog the program. SLS hardware woes and Orion heat shield fixes have slipped timelines before, reminding us that space is unforgiving. If Falcon Heavy proves its mettle in parallel cargo runs, it might force a hybrid future SLS for crew debuts, commercial heavies for the grunt work. In the end, whether Falcon Heavy steals the spotlight or SLS holds court, Artemis II reignites the spark. Humanity's not done with the moon. We're just getting started. As those astronauts gaze back at our fragile oasis, they'll carry the weight of worlds and the promise of many more to come. As October 2025 unfolds, the Artemis program stands at a pivotal crossroads, blending hard-won progress with the specter of delays and fiscal tightropes. NASA's powerhouse LS rocket inches toward completion, with the latest core stage addition marking the key milestone in the vehicle assembly building at Kennedy Space Center. Orion's integration looms in the coming weeks, priming the stack for Artemis II's no earlier than February 5, 2026 liftoff, a slip from the earlier September 2025 target, attributed to rigorous safety checks on the heat shield and avionics. This crude lunar flyby, helmed by astronauts Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Koch, and Jeremy Hansen, remains the linchpin. A 10-day odyssey testing deep space resilience, from radiation dosimetry to autonomous docking drills. Yet, even as hardware aligns, external pressures mount. A potential government shutdown looms, but Artemis bucks the trend. Essential work on both Artemis II and the ambitious Artemis III lunar landing persists, shielded by congressional carve-outs. Funding holds steady through the One Big Beautiful Bill Act of 2025, but whispers of political flux remind us, space isn't immune to earthly squabbles. These updates sharpen the Falcon Heavy conundrum, with SLS's delays underscoring its complexity and cost. SpaceX's alternative gleams brighter. Falcon Heavy's latest cargo hauls, like the October 2025 Psyche mission extension, reaffirm its payload prowess, Fueling calls for a hybrid model. Commercial rockets for routine lifts. SLS reserved for crude spectacles. Imagine Orion perched on Falcon Heavy's shoulders for Artemis III's Earth orbit rendezvous, docking with SpaceX's Starship human landing system. Starship, now churning through orbital refueling tests at Boca Chica, promises to eclipse even Falcon Heavy, capable of 100-ton lunar payloads and in-situ resource utilization to churn regolith into rocket fuel. NASA's $2.9 billion HLS contract with SpaceX, renewed in mid-2025, bets big on this paradigm shift, potentially rendering SLS a transitional relic by Artemis V in 2028. Beyond the tech tussle, Artemis weaves a tapestry of global ambition. The Lunar Gateway, that orbital outpost co-built with ESA, JAXA, CSA, and UAE partners, edges toward 2028 assembly, serving as a pit stop for South Pole sorties and Mars prep. Recent simulations, shared in NASA's third-quarter Artemis update, showcase Gateway's role in sustained presence. Astronauts could rotate every 6 months, mining water ice for propellant and oxygen, birthing a cislunar economy. China's International Lunar Research Station, eyeing 2030 ops, adds urgency. Artemis must outpace to claim the water-rich poles, lest Beijing's rovers scoop the strategic prize. Challenges persist, of course. Supply chain snarls from the 2025 chip shortage have nipped at Orion's solar arrays, while environmental reviews for Starship's Florida pads drag into November. Critics decry the $93 billion Artemis tab to date, questioning if its value for a flags and footprints redux. But optimists counter, this is seed money for multiplanetary life. By 2030, lunar bases could host 3D-printed habitats, helium-3 fusion experiments, and telescopes peering into cosmic dawn, unlocking Einstein's unified theory or quantum leaps in biology. In this late 2025 snapshot, Artemis embodies humanity's restless spirit, faltering yet forward-bound. Whether Falcon Heavy catalyzes a commercial renaissance or SLS steals the spine, the moon beckons not as endpoint, but launchpad. As Artemis I's countdown ticks, we're reminded Earth's gravity is but a suggestion. The stars? They're calling us home.